a special feature today on T102sportsnow.com and the T102 Sports Now YouTube channel. A special guest today. He is a proud native of Schuylkill Haven in the little town that could. He is a Schuylkill Haven Hurricane football alum. He is a Penn State student. He's a civil engineering major in the ROTC program. But most importantly, the 54th Nittany Lion mascot, Mason Reber, joining us today. Mason, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I guess I want your reaction since we're, kind of a couple weeks out now to that media tour and what it's been like to finally be able to share some of these stories.
Yeah, it's like I've said it a couple times now. The amount of like outreach I've had from people, obviously from my hometown and Schuylkill Haven and whatnot, and that's one thing which has been completely overwhelming. And the amount of positivity that I've gotten from that community has been insane. But also from people that I've never met in my life before that have just like DM'd me on Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and they've just said like, thank you for whether it be like a mother or a father that I interacted with their son or daughter, and I made their day or whatever it was, and they just wanted to thank me for what I did for the past 3 years. So like that has been overwhelming, and I'm just like I feel so thankful and blessed that I've gotten the opportunity to give those moments to those people and kind of give back in a sense. So
Yeah, when you think about the documentary and some of the features that you've done, we've heard so much of that story. And now I want to kind of take a little bit of a different angle because as I'm watching these things, I'm curious. There's so many things that people want to know about this role and how you manage it and things. So we're going to peel back the curtain a little bit today, go behind the scenes on the life as the Nittany Lion, and maybe give Mason the opportunity to share some stories that he hasn't got the chance to talk about yet throughout the last couple weeks. So we'll hope this conversation provokes some of those because I'm sure you have some amazing stories over the last 3 years. First question I got to ask, because as I'm watching these things, I'm like, maybe people are focusing a lot on like the mental part of this role, but there's such a huge physical component of this thing too. And I got wondering throughout these, did you ever get hurt in the suit? And if so, what's the process if you do get hurt and you have to stay in character?
um like really hurt? No, I've never thankfully I've never gotten hurt because that would obviously take me out of commission for a while. So I've been able to take these 3 years pretty consistently as far as my health goes.
Uh-huh.
It was something that was like it was priority number one. Like I used to ski a lot.
Yeah.
And skiing can be a dangerous thing. So I kind of laid off on the whole skiing aspect of my life because I knew how important it was to
Right.
stay healthy and stay in shape. Going along with that, like physically staying in shape, like when I first started was the spring of my sophomore year, and then going into summer, I was like, oh, also for context, the previous line before me was huge. He was 6'4", 200 some pounds, and he was just a big dude. Like
Yeah.
he's one of my good buddies. So he was also an ROTC, and that's how I met him, and we kind of connected through that. But like I was like, I got to get big. So that summer I went so hard as far as like
Yeah.
working out, running, cardio, everything, like diet, the whole nine. Um, that was probably one of the biggest summers for me as far as getting in shape and then maintaining it. ROTC helps out a lot with that. We do a lot of cardio kind of focused workouts during the semester, so that definitely helped out a lot. And then another thing that I keep saying is like dialing in my hydration because I'm sweating pretty much every day of my life every time I wear the suit. I mean, I run hot as it is. Like I sweat a lot as a normal person, but when I add a fursuit into the equation, it gets a lot worse.
Yeah.
So that was something that I discovered very quickly and really had to get control of. So
Well, kind of a follow up to that. When you did your reveal, you could just see the steam coming off your head, and that was a colder day. So I kind of wanted to ask, like, what was the hottest you ever were in the suit where you were at the point of like, I might pass out if I don't stay hydrated today?
It was definitely one of those like early September Penn State football games.
Yeah.
I want to say one that I do remember specifically is I think it was against Delaware
Oh,
last year, 2 years
yeah.
ago. It rained before the game, and then the sun came out and it got real humid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pennsylvania humidity is kind of no joke, especially like during that time of year.
Mhm.
So that was one of the times that I was like really, really kind of struggling. But
Got
Got
through it.
through
got
it.
you got to keep going.
Yeah. So with some of the other experiences, I can imagine you've had some interesting encounters with fans. Has anyone ever tried to take your head off or grab your tail or just do something that was not comfortable for you?
Yes, there have definitely been some instances where I'm like, all right, this is a little much and this is kind of weird. Um, Actually, the last time I went crowd surfing in the student section,
Oh,
they were passing me up the crowd and someone like stuck their finger in my shoe and tried to rip my shoe off. So I had to, give them a little kick to make sure they didn't take my shoe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just to know, like people actually, thankfully, I've never had anybody like try to rip my head off. That would be
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
bad. There's been stories of you know previous lions who've crowd surfed before, and like students have ripped the ears off of the head. Like
Yeah.
it's been terrible. So I think we did a pretty good job in mitigating those kind of risks, I guess you could say, whenever we decided to do something like that, where we're really interacting with the crowd. But yeah, I'm just thankful that nothing too traumatic happened during my time. So
Well, yeah, when it comes to the crowd surfing, I'm sure back in the day there used to be probably a lot more alcohol in the student section than, than there is these days. So probably that probably played to your benefit. But yeah, like we think about some of those situations and it piqued my curiosity. Like, what do you do when things get a little bit uncomfortable and you want to stay in character, but it's also like you have your personal space as well. Like that's kind of an on the fly decision that you'll have to make. But I'm glad they didn't get your shoe, they didn't get your head, nobody grabbed a tail or anything like that. So that's good to hear.
it's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool because I get into this character and I'm playing this role, and it's great. People want pictures. Like I love doing it, and then it can get to be a little much sometimes when people
Yeah.
start treating you less than a human being. You know
Right.
what I mean? So because you're getting pulled in every direction, everybody wants pictures, and I get that.
Yeah.
Everybody's excited because being one mascot at a time. There's not you know
Uh,
3 or 4 Nittany Lions at one event at a time. You know what I mean? So kind of keeping that consistency within it just makes it much more special for people to see the lions. So
Yeah, and having to keep your social battery charged is sure something that you've had to work on over the years. That's difficult to do. I've seen some of your reactions and your interactions over the years with other mascots. One of them that stood out to me was the Oregon Duck at the Whiteout, completely ignoring you. Very on brand for the Duck. We've seen some of the things that the Duck has done, and they do some crazy stuff with that mascot. How has that interaction with other mascots been from? Is it something that ever gets talked about beforehand? Is it all improv? And we've seen like some mascot fights, whether they've been scripted or not. How have you tried to approach the interactions with other mascots? And do you have any stories about your favorite one, maybe your least favorite one?
um so I don't know how many people know this, but so pretty much all the Big Ten mascots, we go to this mascot camp every year during the summer in Wisconsin, and it's this huge program run by UDA, which is the UDA is this big program that they hold nationals down in Disney World every year, including the cheer team, dance team, and the mascots. So all of the big school, like including some SEC schools, travel to Wisconsin every year and work on like fundamentals of mascotting. And that's where I learned so much when I first started. Like it was really really great to learn from other mascots as far as like improv and character development. That was great. And like
Yeah.
I'm really close with all of the Big Ten teams, and we have a big group chat and we chat all the
Oh
time. Like
wow.
if a certain football team beats another one, we kind of razz them a little bit. Like it's all
yeah.
fun, and we're a great. There's like everybody's just like a great group of people. So like as far as interactions and improving with interactions, like it could be something on the fly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but another example is like Michigan State. Like I turn around and I happen to see Sparty there, and we didn't plan anything beforehand. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we kind of feed off the crowd to see what they want, and we're like, oh, like I'm going to give you a handshake and fake you out and point at you, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
so it's kind of a give and take. You have to kind of read the room a lot,
Yeah.
and make sure you don't really step over the line because you have to have some level of respect for your other
Yeah.
mascots because we're all friends at the end of the day. So
Right.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think a lot of people realize that there's all that chemistry from Big Ten mascots that happens in camp. And I know I think I had read about a commercial that you guys were filming with other Big Ten mascots. That's really cool that there's, and there's so many now with, I guess, 18 schools in the conference. And how many of those 18 have them? Does anybody not have a mascot or does
Does
everybody?
everybody?
So Indiana
Yeah.
was literally the one to join this year with their new
Right.
Right.
mascot, the Hoosier, the Bison, which is a sick mascot, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny going back to this camp that we went to. Their mascot, that was the first year that they went,
Right.
Right.
and their mascot wasn't revealed yet. So whenever it
That's
came to
cool.
like doing events, they would kind of sneak out, do an event, and be like, no pictures, no pictures, because they didn't want
Yeah.
it to leak beforehand. And then they did the whole reveal at their first home opener game. I think they had them parachute in or whatever it was, and it was
Yeah.
it was a really cool reveal.
I would say I would rather be the 54th Nittany Lion than to be the first mascot at a school. That is a ton of pressure. I like that. Like, like you, yeah. And on the other hand, like people are going to be happy to see you, but that's you got nothing to go off of anybody else. He's basically relying on you guys. But yeah, that's cool to cover some of that interaction with the other mascots. Some of the other things I wonder, like obviously I'm sure there have been times where you've needed to communicate something, but you're in character and you have to communicate it without talking, and it might be something pretty important. How have you learned over the years to kind of, figure out ways to communicate with people when you're in public and you cannot talk?
Yeah. At first, it was really, really hard for me to do because
Mhm.
I was never a mascot in high school, and I had no prior experience to being thrown into this position. Like I was chosen, and then it was pretty much like a couple weeks later, like, all right, here you go. You kind of like trial by fire in a sense. So like
Yeah.
one thing that our team has grown to do over these past 3 years, is certain hand signals. Like if I need a break, then I'll
Mhm.
break. So they're like, okay, he needs a break. He needs to go back, take his head off, get a drink of water, whatever it is.
Right.
Um, so just little stuff like that. And like
Mhm.
the team that you're with, I've grown a great relationship with all of them, and they kind of know the situation at all times. They
Mhm.
can read the room as well as I can, and they're like, okay, yeah, it's time to get out of here. Especially if
Yeah.
someone's being nasty for whatever reason, like just removing yourself from that situation is probably the best
Yep.
thing to
Yep.
do. Um, so that's probably what I'll say. I guess about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about those breaks. What do you think is the longest that you've had to go without a break in the suit? Whether you wanted a break for a while and you just weren't able to get away, or there was a situation where you were needed for a long time. Obviously, the football games go a while, but you do get some breaks in there. What is the longest you think you've been in the suit without a drink or a break?
Oh man, I want to say close to a little over 3 hours. I want to say
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it can be brutal. And like going back to the whole heat aspect of things, I
Yeah.
always say to people like our first round playoff game against SMU last year was perfect temperature for me
Yeah.
because it was like 6 degrees out or something like
Right.
that. And everybody's freezing their butts off, and I'm having the time of my life because I'm
It's
not sweating
perfect.
for the first time ever.
Yeah. Really.
So I was loving it. But yeah, like those, so like sometimes you just get in those situations where you're like, wow, I'm kind of like stranded out here for a little while. And you just got to
Yeah.
occupy yourself as most mascots do.
Yeah.
Whether they're interacting with a person or not, they can kind of keep to themselves and occupy themselves with
Yeah.
whatever it is that they're doing. So
Right, make the time go by a little faster. But I mean, yeah, 3 hours. I don't think a lot of people are cut out for 3 hours in a suit. So props to you there. We talk about some of the weather that you've dealt with, some of the heat and stuff. What's it like when it rains? I'm curious what that's like. Do you feel heavier or more uncomfortable? Like, I'm sure you've dealt with some rain games and some rain things over the years.
Yeah. Um, so it's kind of a funny. So like I can't tell when it's raining or not. I just can't tell. Like I have to
Yeah.
because as far as like the mesh and the mask goes, like
Yeah.
I can't really see the rain coming down unless it's really heavy.
Yeah.
And I have a layer on and none of my skin is showing, so I can't really feel much.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have to ask people. I'm like, is it raining right now?
Yeah. Right.
And they're like, yes, it's raining. But as far as like the suit goes, so I've been a part of this transition from the older version of the suit into this now newer looking version of the suit. And through that process, we've gone through this new company, and the suit is thicker than the old one. So I sweat a little bit more than I used to, and my mobility has gone down a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially after these early September games when I'm like sweating my butt off.
Yeah.
We actually have two suits that I can run through. Like because I'll change it at halftime because the first one that I did for all of pregame,
Yeah.
all the other tailgates that we went to is absolutely soaked, and so I changed it to the next one for the second half. By the end of these games, like the suit itself probably weighs a good 10-15 pounds, and it's as gross as you can imagine. Like it's disgusting. Um, so yeah, as far as like suits goes, because the previous suit was a lot thinner and
Yeah.
it was a little bit more flexible. I could run around and do a lot more without sweating so much. With this new suit, it's a little bit more difficult to get around and stay cool. So
And here I thought the equipment staff for the football team having to do all that laundry was a hard job. Who's in charge of washing this suit? Because, I mean, not like you're in it every day, but you're in it most days, and that's got to be a quick turnaround. I'm sure that thing reeks by the
it is
end.
it is a very quick turnaround. So when
Yeah.
I first started, I was in charge of it. I was in charge of washing the suit, and I lived in an apartment my sophomore year, and we didn't have a washer and dryer in our apartment. So I went to the public laundromat to wash this lion suit. So I'd sit there until it was done, and then I'd quickly take it out, throw it in a bag or whatever, and then I'd go
Oh
hang it
My
somewhere to dry
gosh.
it, and then I'd clean the helmet as best as I could. Thankfully, 3 years later, we have a team built out now. We have a staff person that washes this suit,
Yeah.
and they've been a great part of our team. So I'm very very thankful for that.
And that was your first year. Was there ever a time in that laundromat where you're nervous and you're thinking, if somebody sees that I'm washing this suit right now, I'm busted? Like, what?
And like anybody can go in, obviously when the
That's
cycle's over
crazy to
with
me.
and just open it up. So
Yeah.
thankfully that
Yeah,
Yeah.
never happened.
that's incredible. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Was there ever a time where you just happened to get into a conversation with somebody about the Nittany Lion or about things around the Nittany Lion that did not clearly know it was you?
One of the things that pop into my head is probably I'm currently taking this lab class, and I have a lab partner. So I carry it's kind of like a spirit backpack. It looks like you'd be on some sort of athletic team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I carry it into lab every day, or not every day, but whenever we had class every week.
Right.
And I work with my partner every week, and she sees me. We see each other all the time.
Yeah.
And I just ask her sometimes, like, "Hey, did you go to the football game on Saturday?" And she was like, "Yeah, yeah." And she's like, "Kind of noticed you're like," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm on the cheer team."
Yeah.
So if you're there, like, you'll see me there. Kind of just blown it off. And then after this whole reveal thing happened, she DM'd me on Instagram and was like, "There's no way you're the Nittany Lion." And I was like, "Yeah, like I told you I was on the cheer team. I just didn't really tell you the entire truth." So
Right.
that was a kind of a funny story.
As a mascot, you don't have that luxury of being able to show any negative emotion really at any time, or it kind of breaks the fourth wall and you never know who might see you at a certain time showing emotion, or even if it's not showing emotion, even if it's just like not embodying the positivity of the Nittany Lion, or just like kind of slumping around. How have you been able to stay positive and know that really I have to stay on, on top of the positivity the entire time? How does that work for you?
Well, one of the things you mentioned was like you never know who's watching,
Yeah.
and that is something so valuable that I picked up on, um, because somebody is always watching at all times,
Yeah.
and that's just the truth of it.
Right.
So realizing the weight of the position that I had, I knew how important it was to not be visibly upset, I guess you could say. Um, and obviously the outcome is whatever, but putting our efforts into the community that much more has been so rewarding.
Yeah.
Like yes, it was a tough couple games, but like going into our first home game at since we won that game, like seeing the Penn State community come together in such a manner that I've never quite seen before. Like I've experienced the highs of highs and probably but one of the lowest times.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed to say that I've gone through those times, because it makes you so much more appreciative of how high the highs were. You
Right.
know, so that was something going into this position that I quickly realized I needed to do. And no matter the outcome, the end of the Penn State whiteout versus Oregon game, yes, it was a crappy way to end the game, and I was upset. I was very
Yeah.
upset, but there was still a job to do, because
Yeah.
people who obviously like they didn't like the outcome of the game, but they still want to have this special interaction with the Nittany Lion.
Right.
You need to make that happen. And I probably stayed a half hour, if not 45 minutes after the game, taking pictures with people, just
Yeah.
because like I still have something. I still have a job to do. You know, football is very important to Penn State. We all know that. It's not everything though.
Mhm.
So giving back to the community in different ways is something that I've tried to do.
Right. And when you think about mascot life, like I think about theme park mascots and how different it could be, because you're always around happiness and you're always around smiling faces. Like, I mean, you look around after Penn State loses that whiteout, and there's not a lot of smiles on faces. And obviously, you still have a lot of kids who, could care less, and they're there just to soak it all in, as we did when we were younger. But yeah, that's difficult to deal with, and you have to kind of stay positive and just go through it. I'm sure you learned a lot about handling adversity through that. One other thing I was curious about. So during your time as the Nittany Lion, the college football video game series by EA Sports relaunched for the first time in I think 11 years. I guess, did you have any input with EA at all on some of the things that the mascot would do if they were bringing it back to the game? And if not, what was your reaction when you loaded up the game and you saw the Nittany Lion in there, and were kind of able to judge how they did?
It was a pretty funny thing. We heard about this announcement of CFB
Yeah.
coming back, and I was so excited. And we have a group chat with some of the previous Nittany Lions, and they're like, "You're so lucky that you get to do this," like, because they were always
That's
hoping that this
crazy.
game would come back during their time.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You're so spoiled," and I'm like, I really am in a way. But as far as like making input for whatever they're going to put in the game, like that's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But the story, like, there's a time when I never got, I don't really play Xbox that much or whatever it is
Yeah.
anymore. I went home and loaded up the game for the first time, and I immediately, it was it was Penn State versus Ohio State, and I
Yeah.
loaded onto the game, and I sat there and watched. You know how you can skip through all of
Yeah.
the cuts and stuff. I watched the entire thing, and I was like, I was like, this is freaking cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they brought I don't think they brought it back, but they used to have a mascot mode where you could just play 11 on 11.
Uh,
Unfortunately, they did not
That
put
is
that in there.
insane.
I was pretty mad when they said they
Yeah.
didn't have that, but
That is wild though, because you know how many kids are playing that didn't like knew nothing about the Nittany Lion before and probably just fell in love with that thing. And that kind of transitions into my next question. Um, I would assume that most of the kids that you're around love you to the point where they almost don't want to let you go. But on the other side, you've dealt with some kids who are terrified of the Nittany Lion. What's that balance, and can you share some experiences and how that's gone and how you react to those sort of things?
yeah. So me just going back to this camp that we have during the summer for mascots. That's one thing that they hone on in so much is like you're gonna have kids that are gonna be all over you and love you,
Uh,
and there's gonna have kids that they're just gonna scream and cry at you. And one of the things that they kind of taught us was like you want to get down on their like the same level as them because
right.
I'm 6'1", probably
Yeah.
6'3" in the suit, staring down at this kid with teeth showing. Like it's not the greatest thing to be doing. So they taught us, based off of our characters' features and what else we have going on, how to kind of approach that situation. Um, and I have a story of a kid that I met at so I do autographs every Sunday after a football game at the bookstore downtown.
Mhm.
And this kid shows up with, his parents for the first time, and he was not having it at all. Like he was terrified. His name's
Yeah.
Colton. So the one thing about it is they kept coming back every week.
Yeah.
So as these weeks and months and years went on, he's grown this relationship with the lion that has flourished into this amazing stuff. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
he like at the end of my last autograph signing, he made a flip book of all of the times that he was. So the first time you could see he's absolutely terrified.
Oh my
His
goodness.
parents are holding him, he's terrified, and then at the end, he's showing off the Nittany Lion to his family members, and comes to Halloween trick or treat, and you know
Wow.
it's just so crazy that the stuff that we were able to do and kind of
Oh
make
yeah.
happen. So like
Right.
it's really special, and like that was one thing that was really special to me is just like seeing how these relationships can grow with a mascot. Another thing that one of our instructors at this camp told us was like a kid chooses their forever school between the ages of like 4 and 6 years old, I want to say.
I know that.
And like that hit me, and I'm like, wow, if I can make an impact on this kid's life, so much so that I can, you know, make a path as to what school they're going to go to in the future, that weight alone was enough for me to like make the most out of every interaction I got, whether a kid was terrified or whether a kid was loving the Lions.
Yeah, and as somebody who was 2 years old in the arms of the Nittany Lion in front of the student bookstore, a picture that I'll never get rid of, I can tell you it's true. And I might not have been old enough to know it at the time, but it definitely, it definitely had an impact on what Penn State meant to me and everything like that. So, last question here for you, Mason. We talked about the suit earlier, how you've kind of been part of the transition of the suit going from the to the newer company and the heavier suit and all that. Um, I think I know the answer to the question of is it a custom suit? Probably has to be. And do you get to keep anything of the suit, or is there any kind of memorabilia that you will get to keep that's part of that?
I have gathered just so much stuff throughout these years of whether it just be fans giving the Lions something, or pictures or whatever it is. As far as like the suit goes, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep anything specific from the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lion. It is custom, so it's tailored to my size,
Right.
Right.
which was really nice to have because
God.
that wasn't always the case in previous years. So I was very
Really?
fortunate. Yeah, I was very
Wow.
fortunate to have that. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure yet. We'll see. Hopefully.
Give him the head. He was in it for 3 years. He belongs with the head. That is
Yeah.
Mason Reber. Mason, really appreciate you sitting down with us. I'll say again, we talked about a lot of the
Interesting
interesting.
behind the scenes stuff. If you really want the whole story, go watch the documentary on Roar Plus. Make sure you have a box of tissues with you. It does get emotional to watch at times. If you love Penn State, especially, it'll hit home. Check that out. Also, check out the deep dive with Dr. Fitz, where they'll open up a lot more about stuff. But yeah, I hope that fans got to know a little bit about some of the challenges, right, of going through this, and really what it's like on a day-to-day basis when things, you might not be having the best day. As soon as you put that Nittany Lion head on, you got to be having the best day, right? No matter what, because nobody really cares, right, that you're having a bad day when you're the Nittany Lion mascot. So we can learn a lot from Mason. Mason, thanks for joining us today, and good luck. I know you got graduation coming up pretty soon here. Good luck with that, and we look forward to seeing you one last time as the hockey team will take to Beaver Stadium for the first ever outdoor hockey match on January 31st.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.